breaking every chain that binds you. We need each other now more than ever, clearly.
Good night, everyone. It's me, Shem Meluce, from the beautiful island of St. Lucia. Sitting right next to me is my wife. And tonight we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. We'll be talking about music as it pertains to me. More specifically, we'll be talking about the song Share It With Them.
Yes, so if you guys have had your copy of the album, you would recognize that Share It With Them is track number 6 on the album, and many persons have been giving their reviews on the album. We're getting some very positive reviews, and we wanted to at least give you guys a little bit of a highlight of what made Share It With Them such a spectacular song. How did it come about in terms of the writing and the content that is written in that song. So my husband will share a little bit on that. Of course, he's the writer of the song, so he would know a lot about what place he was at and what frame of mind he was in when that song came about.
So Share It With Them is a song that was written way back, if I remember clearly, 2013. I wrote it, I think, with the guitar as an acoustic track, and it was supposed to be on an album called Acoustic Therapy. And so I mean, you understand where it's going. So if we're talking about therapy, it means directly that this song has a message to do with healing, and it talks to situations. And so it came out from situations, circumstances, and offer solutions as well, or concepts or ideas that persons could lean to as it pertains to that. So this is the background, the early background of this song.
All right, so you mentioned acoustic therapy. Why acoustic therapy?
What can I say? Music therapy, you have all kinds of things, cognitive therapy, a lot of other stuff. So let me say I have done a little bit of studies in that regard, as it relates to nurturing people, assisting people to get to their full potential, basically. So I am very much interested in the holistic well-being of an individual, hence my writing style. It is not something I try to do. It is just part of who I am and part of what I am interested in. I would call myself a social writer because I address different ills that take place in society, different things that persons face as they go through life, and hence the reason why acoustic therapy was the title of the album. Whether it's not acoustic therapy, this album definitely is therapy.
Okay, all right. So Share It With Them. Tell us a little bit about the content of the song.
The content of the song speaks to each verse. Let me say each verse speaks to a situation. So let me say the first line of the first verse. How can I sleep when so many are dying? How can I eat? Many are starving. So I am questioning myself as it relates to what I see. How could I throw away food when I look at the media, even maybe within my environment, I could, or my locality, I see persons who are struggling. How could I be wasteful knowing that there is someone just around the corner who doesn't have something to eat? How could I lavishly spend and I just passed this guy down the road begging? And so it's a matter of being conscious, being fully aware of what is taking place in our society, in our world, amongst humanity, and how can I, with the little that I have or the much that I have, to share with them. So whether it's love, whether it's food, whether it's clothing.
That is quite interesting because I mean we live in a society where there are many people giving, but if we were a little bit more giving, maybe we would find a little bit of leveling when it comes to persons who are in need. Would probably have less persons in need if someone were to give, every one person who is able to give out to somebody else. Maybe that would probably be one way to level the ground when it comes to even poverty and issues like that.
Most definitely. One of the things it's sad to see, we live in a society where persons tend to think a lot about themselves. And nothing wrong in that, because you also have persons who take advantage of persons who are very giving or very caring. But one of the things we have to start with is the mindset. So we have persons who believe that, yes, I have worked hard for this, everybody could work hard for themselves, ignoring circumstances and whatever reason that could land someone in a place that they are at the moment. Now, it could be through some fault of theirs, but most of the time it may just not be through any fault of theirs. So we have to be mindful, conscious, and aware of what is taking place among us, what is taking place with our youth, our older persons, and find a way where we could be a contributor in a positive way to society.
Well, that, I mean, just with the first line, the first few lines, we already gather this. I think it is about time for us to listen to the song, just to hear at least the first verse, just to hear what exactly is the content of the first verse, and for us to go a little bit deeper into what exactly it is saying.
So again, earlier we said that I wrote it as an acoustic track, but for this album, it's no longer acoustic. But the same vibe of the acoustic is right in there, because you could, if you listen close, you'll hear the nylon string guitars and things in there. So it's a full reggae track right now.
Right.
But that does not lose the message.
Okay, so we're going right into it, listening to the track Shade with them, number 6 on the album Lead the Way.
So much problems in the world, yes. But we need some direction, it's share love. How can I sleep when so many are dying, cannot eat well, and many are crying? Could I love me and don't love another? Could I love God and don't love my brother? Could I love you and keep demonstrated, but I hate you, and I could gladly express it? Could I know this and don't even bother? Could I know that and I'm not helping more? The things that you did for me, I'll do it for them, I'll do it for them. See the love that you shared with me, I'll share it with them, I'll share it with them, yeah. The gifts that you give to me, I'll give it to them, I'll give it to them, yeah. See the love that you shared with me, I'll share it with them, yeah. See, so many they are hurting on the wayside.
All right, the first thing that was said in the song is there are so many problems in the world. And indeed, there are a lot of problems in the world. I mean, even with our local St. Lucia, there are several issues that have been escalating throughout the years. We have an issue of crime, we have issues of persons, even within this pandemic, we have persons who have lost their jobs, we have persons who have gone, hungry. People are trying to, get afloat as they prepare for the school year that is approaching. And you're presenting solutions even where you say shed a love. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Indeed, I mean, you rightfully said. Just yesterday, I think I posted something as I look at the escalation of crime on our little island. 31 or 32 murders recorded and we could hardly see the motive for all those killings. Not that it is justified, whether there is a motive or not, because we're dealing with the loss of lives, and then you now start to ask the question: do we have a sense of purpose? Do we have that whole sense of humanity, where we could just see someone else as another human being, or do we just see them as just an animal, or that could just be taken away? So sharing the love goes beyond this thing, and it speaks to who are those individuals committing those crimes, what are their backgrounds, what have they faced in life, why do they see life in the way that they see it. And then you may speak to those persons and you recognize, they'll be like, man, they won't even dwell on what you're talking about. They'll talk about what they have been through. Oh man, I have been through this. Nobody cares. And so right now, when you hear those kinds of things, you start to realize we have a mandate now to reach out to our young men, to reach out to our hurting women who have been abused, who have been violated in many ways, physically, emotionally, psychologically. So we understand that we have people who are going through issues alone, and people molested by the immediate families, and who do you tell? And persons react in various ways, and they go into society doing damage to other persons because they themselves are damaged. So sharing the love really is, if I have something good to offer, there is no need for me to keep it. I think it is my responsibility to try as much as possible to translate that to someone who needs it.
Yes, I mean, you touched on something very pertinent here. The issue of people's backgrounds, and a lot of the time, while we are aware of it in a sense, when things happen, for example, this positive guy that everybody is talking about who just got murdered, when we speak of murder, we tend to, think of the victim and say all the good things about the victim, and I think that is good, but a lot of the time we do not recognize that there is a perpetrator, there is someone who actually committed that crime, and there is a reason for them committing that crime. There is something deeper than just, them coming to that point where they just murder an individual, and we have to get to that point where we share love for people so much so that we delve into their history, we delve into their past and see how we could help prevent crimes from happening, how we could prevent those persons from getting to that point where they end up murdering somebody or raping somebody or doing stuff like domestic violence and that kind of thing.
And as you rightfully said, the person who would have done the crime, by interacting with them or finding out the full details, some of them would kill themselves, but providing that they're still alive, one of the good things about it is you would not have been able to prevent this crime which has already occurred. But there is something that you may learn to put preventative measures in place. And then we could now recognize persons who have this propensity to be on that side of the fence where they want to victimize someone. And we can learn from some of those errors and see how well we could better our society and create different programs and skills to help in that regard.
Yes, and as you say that, I mean, you're talking from a very biblical standpoint in your songs, although you touch a lot on social issues, but do you recognize that sharing the love is just an emotional thing, or is it something that is more, hands-on, and what ways would you suggest sharing the love would reach out to people, like, in what ways would you say that you could share the love and touch those real issues while sharing that love and not keeping it restricted to a purely religious or spiritual standpoint?
Love in and of itself is something practical. So it's not just a word. You hear persons talk about, "I really love you." There's a demonstration that comes with, that is backed by the statement. So when we talk about love, there's a demonstration of that. It is within any spirituality. So whether Christianity, Buddhism, Muslim, Rastafari, it does not matter what your belief system is. Love is fundamental in all, because it is the need to recognize the void and fulfill that void without desiring anything back, without focusing on the rejection. Because love is so great in that I don't demonstrate the practicality of it because of what you do or don't do. It goes beyond the receiver's response to me. I just recognize that you need assistance in that. It is a fundamental belief in me, and I go all out to assist in that way, whether you understand it or not. So it's practical. It's not a statement there. We have a lot of love, and it just remains there. It must be demonstrated.
Yes, and certainly we have to understand when we speak of love, it is not, many persons speak of love from a very emotional point of view, and that is merited. But when we speak of love in a more practical and essential way, we extend love to persons who are victims and as well to persons who are criminals. One of the things that really bothers me, and this is not to suggest that I forward criminality in any way, but one of the things that I've recognized is when persons come out of the criminal system, maybe come out of probably jail,
Yeah.
what is in place to rehabilitate them in such a way that when they come into society that they're ready to, lead a good life? Are they counseled? Do we have a system in place for them to be properly rehabilitated to come back into society and say, okay, I will be that upstanding member of society?
Well, you brought about a very good point. I am not in a position to respond to that. However, I have another question which is lingering in my mind. It is not whether they are prepared, whether they are counseled or rehabilitated enough to come back into society. My question, however, is, say for instance they are we ready to receive them back into society? Basically what I'm asking is that, are we practical with our love? And are we ready to receive those people, believing that they, during the time of incarceration, had a reflection, had some enlightenment, and now worthy to contribute positively to our society? Or do we just watch them? This guy has been a criminal. This guy are we sending them back into a relapse of that very thing that they tried to despise or tried to not live again? So this is my question, and hopefully, persons will be able to.
I mean, that is a very, very good question. Very, very good question. Because part of the rehabilitation that's supposed to take place, it's supposed to be done when they get into society, where we embrace them. And I'm not suggesting that we embrace criminals in such a way that we embrace their criminality. We have to also be open to the fact that they may have gotten to a point of, ridding themselves of that tendency or you know, people, when they get to a point of stress or great, like there is something that bothers them to it takes them to that point, to that place where they react or they act, and it's not necessarily something that they would have done when they're in the right frame of mind. And I just want to say that I don't want to dwell too much on criminals, even the victims. We have persons who are victims of, say, rape, and they have been looked upon as if they brought on that rape onto themselves, or they brought on that kind of criminality onto themselves, maybe because of their mode of dressing or because of their demeanor and that kind of thing. So we have a purpose, we have a role to play in both the victim and the criminal as well. And it is us as a society to reach out and to say, hey, I am going to share the love and share it in a very practical and meaningful way.
I agree. I agree. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's a harsh reality, but we definitely need to reach out to whoever it is from whatever side or whatever angle that they're coming from. Be it the one who's been victimized or be it the one who is doing the damage. And both needs help. Yeah, both of them need a lot of help. And earlier we spoke to persons getting back into society. And we need to look at this thing just as going to school.
Mm-hmm.
You go to school, you get a diploma, a certificate, a degree, whatever it is. It is when you get into the field of work, you are sure. It's not the exam. The exam is one thing because you could cheat in the exam, you could do all of those things. However, it is when you get in society working, we will know that if whether you understood the concepts, the theories, methodologies, so you could apply in your field of work, so you could be of benefit to society.
Well, of course, we won't be going into all of the song because, I mean, the song is available for purchase. The Lead the Way album is only $20 and it is available on all media outlets, if I am right. Right, and also available on CD hard copy. If you would like your copy, you could tell us where persons can find the hard copy.
Well, definitely persons could reach out. I mean, for now I know that the hard copies are in the US and in St. Lucia, but Instagram, Facebook, it's a matter of contacting Shem Meluce. This name, SHEMMELUCE. We might have to put it in the description so you could check it out. Once the name is spelled correctly, you'll definitely meet me. I am the only one in the world. I will say that, but it's actually true. And you could hit us up and we'll make a way to get it to you. But people, the truth about it, we speak about those songs, but we will be engaging a lot more because we live in a society where we need to always speak something positive, speak a blessing to people and let them know what is in our mind, how can we help. And we'd like persons to also do the same, contribute to society and speak about different things that are taking place.
But we want to really be stand in the gap and be that set of people who would reach with a positive message, reach you at your core, at your heart, and this is what we are all about, and this is what we will endeavor to do in the coming videos, to share a little bit more about the content of the songs on the Lead the Way album, maybe some other songs, maybe from the Out of the Shadows album as well, and to just delve into the issues, the social issues that really come out of those songs. So engage the discussion, whatever captivates you, and of course if you have any suggestions on what you would like for us to speak about specifically, we would be glad to entertain that as well. So thank you so much for being our audience. We welcome any new persons coming in and viewing our videos.
All right, see you. Bless.
All right then.
I love you, black woman. I won't hurt you, never desert you. I'll be there for you. My strong black woman. I won't hurt you, never desert you. I'll be there for you. I love you, black woman.